Point Play, your new favorite sports talk show. I'm here with Thomas Benda, Ben Michaels, Matthew Bonaparte, and I'm Jack Carey. So what do we do here on the 4 Point Play? We talk about the hottest news in sports. And today, on our opening episode, we'll be talking about the NBA trade deadline.
Let's start off with people who got dealt. Big deal. Tobias Harris to Detroit for Ersan Ilyasova and Brandon Jennings. Thoughts?
I think this is a big trade for the Pistons, mainly because Tobias Harris, he may not be known for it, but he's really a big talent that's kind of gone under the radar. He was given a max offer by the Magic this last offseason. He was highly touted as a player, and he's going to bring all the skills that he showed off in Orlando to Detroit with him.
But you got to remember, Ersan Ilyasova and Brandon Jennings, who he's dealt for, big unsung heroes in their teams, as Jennings is one of the most underrated point guards in the game.
I completely agree. And last year, when he was playing, he was really essential to the success of the team. But when they got Reggie Jackson, he kind of fell off the radar, partially because he was injured, but partially because they didn't really need him. Reggie Jackson is also a good player who may end up getting a max deal.
He's an up-and-coming star in the league.
Yeah, Jennings leaves a hole in the backcourt now for when Jackson is off the court. But besides that, it's a good deal for both teams.
Yeah,
They're both going to benefit.
I think it's
Think
an
about-
even deal, yeah.
Think about what Jennings is bringing the Magic now. They already have Elfrid Payton in the backcourt. He's just going to add to that, whether he's the starter or they're playing together. That could be a really good combo.
But that's going to conflict with Oladipo unless they want to put him at the 3.
I think that they could end up doing that, but between them and then the front court with Vucevic, I think that could be a legit team going forward.
All right, let's move on to the Grizzlies, giving away 2 key players, Courtney Lee and Jeff Green. What do you think?
Well, I don't know about this trade. For the Grizzlies, they're giving up Courtney Lee and Jeff Green. I really don't like it. I feel like the Grizzlies had momentum going. I feel like these are 2 key players, and I feel like Gasol really connected with them, and I think he'll really miss these players in the upcoming future.
To clarify, these were 2 separate trades, and I think that the Jeff Green trade would probably be the better of the 2 trades for them, mainly because they're getting back a player in Lance Stevenson who has the potential to regain the form that he had with the Pacers, where he was really a featured player along with Paul George when they went deep into the playoffs and nearly made the finals. But overall, if you look back at these 2 players that they sent off, in both Jeff Green and Courtney Lee, you go back to their Celtics days when they were playing together, and that team was really rolling in 2011 and 12. They're both talented players who never really found themselves. Courtney Lee's the kind of guy that GMs like but don't love. He can spot up for threes, drive, really an all-around player, but not great at any one thing.
Yeah, just a
Yeah, I
3
agree.
to be honest.
And also, he's aging at this point.
I think the Grizzlies had a great accusations from this trade. They got 4 future second-round picks from Miami and Charlotte, one with big man Chris Anderson and P.J. Harrison who can play in the backcourt.
With so many dominant teams in the West, like the Warriors and the Spurs, teams like Memphis, even though they started out pretty hot and kind of overachieving, they really don't have a chance to go as far as they would like to. And so dealing for the future, they had a chance, but it's not a terrible idea given the circumstances.
I completely agree. If I had to sum up the Grizzlies season so far in one word, it would be overachieving. I mean, Gasol's been injured for a good portion of the year, but they're still 5th in a competitive West. But 5th right now in the West isn't going to cut it. You're behind the teams like the Clippers, the Thunder, the Spurs, and the Warriors. And those are such powerhouse teams that it's going to be hard, especially with them giving up these players for them to compete. So I do think it was a smart move on their part.
Do you guys think that they're going to follow the playoffs?
Below them, you have the Mavericks, who are kind of looking to gain a little bit more momentum, especially if they do go out and add a player like David Lee that we'll talk about later, who they've been rumored to be interested in. But then there's also the Trailblazers at 7 and the Rockets at 8. There's not that much competition. The Jazz look like a team I could see rising up in the standings. But besides that, I do think that they'll end up making the playoffs. I don't know if they'll stay at 5. I mean, if Gasol comes back and plays well, they should stay around there. But I don't think it'll affect them too much.
I think the move was a move for the future, as they got 4 picks in the draft, as they're going to wait on those to use them in the draft to build their team going forward. I think they'll be a better team going forward after those picks are used, much like the Celtics I think will be in a couple of years.
Going off Matt's idea, I think the Houston Rockets really missed an opportunity by not trading Dwight Howard. They could build their team for the future around James Harden, a star player in the NBA right now, and getting future draft picks. Because let's be honest, they're sitting 8th with James Harden. That means they're not going to do well in the playoffs. And the Jazz are rising up. I feel like the Rockets could fall out completely.
Yeah, I agree with that. One of the rumored trades was Al Horford for Dwight Howard, and that would have been a good swap, I think, for the Rockets, as they would have gotten a smaller guy but a better jump shot from mid-range.
Although you do have to consider, Houston made a deep playoff run last year, and they were hot at the end of the year. And even though their team has been inconsistent this year, they fired their head coach. But these are talented players, and you don't want to do anything too rash when you have an asset as good as Dwight Howard.
The Pistons, Rockets, and Sixers trade, with Montezumas and Thornton going over to the Pistons. The Rockets receive a first-round pick as long as the 76ers get Joel Anthony and a second-round pick from the Nuggets.
Well, this is great for the Sixers. They're 8-45, and they need anything they can get, really.
Joel Anthony, who is known to be a liability at the center position, still is something for them as some age, some veteranship to help those young guys.
Well, I feel like they can make a playoff run now.
Say what?
I think for a player like Dante Montezumas and Marcus Thornton, a first-round pick is really good compensation, especially from the Sixers, and it's only top 8 protected. So if they're in that 8 to 15 range, this could really help the Rockets move for the future, and they did not give up much at all.
Agreed. A fry to Cleveland.
I love this. LeBron James, Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving, the best big three, in my opinion. I think that this is great. Kyrie really can dish the rock. This three-point addition could really be a spark to their offense.
You know, I think that this addition of Fry is kind of a power move. He was pretty much going to go to LA, the Clippers, the entire deadline right up until this deal was made. And for them he really adds to that power forward big man position in a way that they didn't have with Varejao. You know, they have Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson there, which make up a good combo. But you add Fry into the mix and his spot-up shot, especially mid-range, that's going to really help the balance and the floor spacing.
Yeah.
Although I really feel like they gave up a little too much for him, so they gave Varejao and a first-round pick.
Although, to be fair, that first-round pick is going to be towards the very end
Sure,
of the first round. So, I mean, to them, it's really not worth much because their team consists of star players and then a lot of role players. They don't really have many rookies that they are going to give considerable minutes to.
And Varejao was getting old.
And
Well,
Cavaliers they've had an up-and-down season. They also, like the Rockets, fired their head coach, David Blatt. But right now, they still have the first seed in the East at 39-14. It's only 3.5 games up of the second place Raptors. So they have some work to do in terms of making sure that they secure that. They'll get home court advantage. But if they want to secure that top seed, they're going to have to make sure that they stay at a high level. And acquiring Fry is really going to help them do that.
Let's move on to the players that weren't traded. Let's start Pau Gasol for Chicago.
They really pushed to try to get him traded. In the last year of his deal, right, he is projected to get a big payday this offseason, and especially if he continues production at the rate he is.
They've been hit with the injury train for the past 5 years, Derrick Rose, and now Jimmy Butler. I hope it doesn't go to him because they could have had some great years with playoff runs if they had Derrick Rose.
they're sitting at the 8th seed right now in the East. I think it's really unfortunate that Chicago didn't get rid of Pau Gasol. He's 35 years old. He's going to go away next season. They have a lot of stars with injury that they're going to need to give a lot of money to. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to a team that has 1 or 2 stars and tries to make a big three and then end his career on a high note.
And if just look at who the Bulls have in their front court right now. Between Nikola Mirotic, Taj Gibson, Joakim Noah, they're pretty set there. Especially Mirotic, a good young player who could definitely grow to be at Pau Gasol's level. He's just not needed there, and I was a little surprised to see him not traded. There were a lot of discussions with the Kings, who I thought he would have been a great fit with, next to DeMarcus Cousins. You still have Willie Cauley-Stein developing, but he's definitely not part of the Bulls' future.
All right, Blake Griffin, there was a lot of rumors about him being traded since the injury after he got in that fight with one of the team managers.
What happened kind of overshadows the fact that he's a crazy good player, and if you put him with DeAndre Jordan and CP3, you get that big three effect that the Cleveland Cavaliers have mastered, where you have different types of players that are star players coming together in order to create a good unit. So I really still think he's part of their future. He's still young, and he's only like 26. and he has a bright future with them as long as he can keep his outside of basketball life on track.
Yeah, personally, I thought all the hype about it was a little ridiculous because this was just one ordeal, and the team's had a lot of success in the future. They haven't had the success in the playoffs that they've always been hoping for, but any year could be the year it happens, and this year they've been looking good. And so to trade away one of your top 3 players was kind of a ridiculous idea from the start.
Along with DeAndre Jordan looking a lot more confident and just dominating like other players. Like, have you seen that dunk against the Bucks where he just annihilated that big man?
Well, let's just be honest. This is the same Blake Griffin that came out of the dunk contest a couple of years ago. He's better now statistically, even that, and he has a better team around him. This is a team that can make a deep playoff run. And why are you going to give away one of your key pieces over a management fight? This was a single incident, and it's not like this is going to happen again with other players. And it's not like he's getting in fights with his own teammates, which is much more important than a team manager.
I completely agree. And it looks like the Clippers are trying to make some noise. It could be hard with teams like the Thunder and the Spurs and the Warriors out west. But especially, we talked a little bit before about the Jeff Green trade. A year ago, they picked up Doc Rivers. They got Paul Pierce. They tried to turn this team into more of a veteran, experienced team. And I think the Jeff Green acquisition is part of that. He's been in the playoffs. He's tested.
He's worked with Doc Rivers.
Yeah, that's true. Doc Rivers was his coach for many years back in Boston. I don't think this is a team that's giving up, and Blake Griffin trade would have signaled them giving up.
I think back to that rumor, everything when Doc Rivers said we're not trading Blake, that's when the rumors were pretty much snuffed out.
You know, I do think it was the right decision, but something that we should probably consider when talking about this is the big package they could have gotten in return for Blake Griffin.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'd like to ask all the analysts, what was their one, if they had to pick one trade, what was the biggest trade from the trade deadline?
I'd probably go with the Magic Pistons trade of Harris, Brett Jennings, and Ilyasova. I feel like the Magic got a big boost with Jennings in the backcourt and Ilyasova in the front court. I feel like Jennings is going to be a better man running the offense, and Ilyasova is going to be a guy who has a threat of him in the range and the outside.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm going to go with another Magic trade, the Channing Frye trade to Cleveland, but not for the obvious reasons, because Frye is going to give a big boost to Cleveland, who really wants to progress, take the next step, and become that big powerhouse of the East that they're supposed to be. But it was the other part of the deal that sent Anderson Varejao out to Portland, who he was immediately waived. And I think that that's going to play a big role in the playoffs. He's kind of underrated. A couple years ago, he was a big part of the Cleveland team before they got back LeBron and when LeBron left. And he and Kyrie Irving were really the two centerpieces of that team. So I think wherever he goes, whether it's the Thunder or the Warriors, who have been rumors.
Well, I mean, the Thunder have been a big front runner
Yeah.
of predictions.
But whichever team he goes to is going to get a boost
big
in
boost
their
in big
depth,
competition.
and it's going to really help them in the playoffs, because depth is one of the most important things in the playoffs.
I have to go with Ben on this. I think Frye to Cleveland was the most important trade. Cleveland's a great team, and they had a really close championship run with the Golden State Warriors last year, and I feel like they were just missing that one player. And I feel like Frye making a game-winning three, like Ray Allen did for them for the Heat with LeBron James, could save their championship run this season.
An underrated deal, or multiple deals really, but the Miami Heat, they made multiple deals to get under the luxury tax threshold, which is going to do big for them because they moved around second-round draft picks and not very good players just to get under that limit, which is going to get rid of a big fine, which could help them in free agency next year, or just open the possibilities for the Heat, because with Dwayne Wade and Hassan Whiteside, they've been doing really well, and they could take off this season or next season with these options now.
Well, there was a lot of speculation that Hassan Whiteside would be traded for a big man like Horford or Howard at the deadline, but I think it was a good move by the Heat to keep him because he's part of their, I think, the start of a young players uprising on their organization with Justice Winslow, because older guys, getting older, Wade, Dang, getting past their prime, Goran Dragic, along with Bosch, they're at the end of everything. They're reaching the end of their prime, and they're going to need to bring new guys in. As they traded away Cole and Chalmers, I think that those weren't good ideas in the past, as they need them in the backcourt. But That's just what I think.
Yeah.
It's going to be important to watch Chris Bosh and the blood clot issue. It came back. He had it last year and this year. And it looks like it could be serious. It could not. We really don't know. And it could affect the future depending on what ends up happening.
Yeah, he's still on blood thinners, and he's not traveling with the team anymore, and he's going to take a lot more tests. But if this could be serious, that could be like the end of his career.
Yeah, it's a scary situation.
Well, that pretty much sums it up. That was the first episode of the 4 Point Play. Please subscribe, like, follow us at FR Sports News on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Check out the website, and peace.